Welcome to the Former Fat Friend podcast. I'm Casey.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Allie. And together we've lost over 370 pounds. We all know what it's like to be the fat friend. And now we are sharing the ins and outs of our weight loss journeys.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back.
Hey.
Welcome back, guys. We have a very, very special guest on the podcast today. We are very, very excited to be talking with Miss Laura Flusche, who is, tell us your Instagram handle. I want to make sure you get it right.
It's Flusche It Away.
Flusche It Away. All right.
Yeah.
Miss Laura at Flusche It Away is here today. We are very, very excited.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. It's the first time I've ever been a guest on a podcast. So,
well, we are honored. I'm sure a lot of people already know you or feel like they know you, but can you give us kind of your stats and the basics of your story?
Sure. So I had bariatric surgery almost 2.5 years ago. I've struggled with my weight pretty much my entire life. Tried, every diet, would do it, then put the weight back on. And really in 2020 is really when it hit like an all-time high. I mean, COVID. And I had our fourth baby in like February of 2020. So literally like 2 weeks before like the world shut down.
Wow.
And having a newborn and being isolated, it was just really hard. And I gained like 60 pounds in that year. And I'm only 5'1", and my highest weight got to 384 pounds. Like, I think my BMI was like 75 or something. So I had bariatric surgery on December 28th of 2021. I had the modified duodenal switch. And since then, I've lost a little over 270 pounds.
Come on.
It's insane. That's
And
just,
now we're here.
gosh, that's so mind-boggling.
Does that get old, Laura? Like, what does that feel like today, several years now, post-op, to say a sentence like that? I've lost over 270 pounds.
It's crazy because when I always talk about this, when I walked into my surgeon's office, they give like your excess weight amount. And I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to lose that weight. Like, how am I going to? I think it was like 240 pounds is what they had down. And I'm like, there's no way I'm ever going to lose that. And to be here is just, I don't know. It's crazy. I just can't believe it.
Yeah. Did you have a goal going into this?
Yes. And I'm sure you guys feel like that. So my first goal was like 175. I'm like, okay, let's get to 175. Then I got there and I'm like, okay, let's do 150. I got there and then I'm like, okay, let's do 135. And so it is a really hard thing because you're like, when is enough enough? And you keep like, okay, well, what's my new goal?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So did your surgeon kind of follow you with that to say like, I keep going, I still think you're in the losing phase, or like, hey, I think it's time to transition to maintenance? Or was that something you kind of had to decide for yourself along the way?
I kind of just stopped losing.
Okay.
And they say like as long as you're, between that 18 and 25 BMI, there's like not really any concern. And so I just finally just stopped. Like it just stopped moving any lower and they were good with it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You talk about that a lot, Casey, too, that like that set point, once your body kind of reaches that point where it feels comfortable, it's almost hard to lose or gain in either direction because it's like, oh, this is where I feel comfortable. Do you feel like that's been the case for you?
I think so, because I fluctuate, the couple pounds, like water weight and stuff. But for the most part, like I just stay right there regardless of really, I wouldn't say what I do because I do what I'm supposed to do.
You're
like
consistent.
90% of the time.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah.
Laura, that's really interesting. I am curious because obviously I follow you on Instagram. I think we all do. But when did you start your Instagram? Was that like before surgery, after? Like when did that come about?
So yeah, I started it 3 days before my surgery. And really, I started it just because I didn't want to bombard my Facebook with updates about my weight loss if people didn't really want to see it. So it was really for my friends and family. I didn't even know like the bariatric community existed at that point. And I think my first post was something like, you have to trust the magic of new beginnings or something. It was like a quote.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, when I look back on it, I'm like, wow, like that girl had no idea like what was in store, how good it was going to get,
Yeah.
So I had no intention of ever growing an Instagram I didn't even know it existed. And so it just kind of fell in my lap.
So for people who may not know, Laura is on Instagram and her following has grown to over 500,000 followers at this point, which is, can you even comprehend that number when you think about that?
No, it blows my mind. Like it blows my mind.
We're selling out
I'm
stadiums.
Just like a normal, I'm like you guys. We're like all just a normal person. I'm like,
yeah,
it's just crazy.
Yeah. At what point in your journey did that following really start to take off?
So I remember I was in Hawaii on a family vacation. So I was about 6 months post-op, and I had a random video of me walking down the street go viral. And I all of a sudden were like getting all these followers, and I'm like, what is happening? And it was that video. And from there, it just kind of grew. And I've had several videos since then. I think my latest one, it's like 85 million people views on it. It was the one like shaking my booty before my butt lift.
I'm curious what your friends and family think, because I have like 2 followers, and I recently showed my mom. I was like, hey, I did this because I didn't start it for my friends and family. I did the opposite. I had a secret double life to share because I didn't really tell a lot of people. And I recently showed my mom some of my content, and she was like, you're just in your underwear on the internet? Like, well, yeah, people are doing it. Laura's doing it.
Everybody else does it.
Right. Yeah. My mom's like, why aren't you in your underwear on the internet?
But I'm curious, like, if that, like, kind of, I don't know, was something you, like, had to get adjusted to, or, like, if there are, because your friends and family know, like, what they have to say about it.
I mean, not really. Like, nobody's really said anything. My parents just are incredibly supportive, my whole family, and think it's awesome. Friends don't really say anything. I guess maybe because I kind of started, like I was wearing a sports bra and, biker shorts in the beginning, and it just kind of evolved. I am careful. I mean, my kids' teachers follow me. So like I have to be a little careful, and I'm mindful of those things. But yeah, because like sometimes people are like, can you show us your breast lift results? I'm like, that's really hard to share.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put that out there in the open.
Yeah. We were talking about this last week. How like sometimes that content pops up on Instagram and you're like, I wasn't ready to see boobs right now.
Oh, I'm always ready. Yeah. We talked about this. I'm like, yeah, I don't need any sort of warning for that.
Yeah. And
give me all the information, please.
It's interesting to me because it's like, I love the information sharing among the bariatric community, and I have learned so much from people who are willing to put that kind of content out there. But I'm with you, Laura, like that, I can't share that stuff. It's just too personal for me.
Yeah, even if you have it covered, like it just still seems like too much. I don't know.
But you do share quite a lot on the internet. I mean, you allow yourself to be, I mean that in the best possible way. Like you allow yourself to be vulnerable and share, because I think this can be a really isolating thing. And there are a lot of people like you that didn't even know there was a community out there. And you're able to grow that sense of community for people and give them kind of a glimpse of like help and a holding hand.
That life that's normal. And I think that's the biggest thing is when you're starting the journey, you're like, is my life going to be like this forever? Am I only going to be able to eat this much? Am I going to be able to enjoy a cookie? Mm-hmm. And I think it's good for people to see life on the other side. Like life returns to a new normal, but it's so good if you just trust the process. Mm-hmm. And I try to share like my thigh lift, my initial thigh lift. My results weren't great, which is not uncommon. But, you go into a surgery and you want to come out like looking like, you want it to look good. And that was a really hard thing for me to share because people are very opinionated and judgmental, as you guys know.
Yeah.
And that was probably the hardest thing for me to share, like to admit like I'm not happy with this.
Yeah.
But I think people appreciate that.
Totally. Yeah. And I know Lisa is interested in a thigh lift, and I think you sharing your journey has been really helpful for her. I know just in our conversations, not only seeing what's possible, but also really managing expectations about, what's realistic for the first time around, and like that revisions are common and necessary. And I think your results are incredible now from this second round. But yeah, I can imagine that was probably really tough because you're excited going into this plastic surgery, and then your results aren't quite maybe what you had hoped for. But I can say, I think people really appreciate that level of vulnerability and being able to say like, no, I'm not happy with these results, but like, here's what I'm going to do about it. I think that's fantastic that you.
I literally, yes, Kate, like firsthand experience was like, because I want to have a thigh lift. I carry so much excess skin in my upper legs. That's where I carried all of my weight. And I have literally like waited with bated breath, like, let me see Laura's legs. Let me see how they look. So I know. And I remember when you were like, I'm not happy. I'm not going to share it. I was like, no, please share it. I want to see. But it helped me manage my expectations. And it's interesting, even the surgeon that I'm going to go with, I'm going to do a tummy tuck and the upper thigh lift separately. And I want to do my legs first because I'm most self-conscious about my legs. And that like hinders me from wearing shorts and things like that, which I'm sure you can appreciate.
Yeah.
That I was like, let me do that first because like that is hindering me from what I wear. Whereas like my stomach doesn't as much. And your results are phenomenal.
I'm like thrilled with my results now. I have a little bit of skin on my knees, and I saw him today and he's like, there's not really a ton we can do without having like incisions at the very like front. And so, I mean, but I'm happy with them compared to what it was. I mean, I only dreamed of having legs that looked like this my entire life. Cause like you, Lisa, I carried a lot of my weight in my legs and they were just so bad. So, but realistic expectations. And I think the majority, like, I feel like we think that people know things like with massive weight loss that you are going to have revisions, but they don't. Like, people don't know the reality of it. And so I think by sharing that and just knowing, because thigh lifts, I think, are like one of the least, like, people are least satisfied with thigh lifts. And I don't know if you're in any groups on Facebook, but the thigh lift groups on Facebook had me terrified because the like incision opening, the healing process on thighs there can be a lot of wound openings. And I was terrified, but I had no issues with that. So
I should or should not join these Facebook groups.
Like, yeah, you should not. I feel like Facebook groups, like you just see everything in those things. And most of it, because the people that are having problems are the ones posting, right?
Of course.
Yeah, I convinced myself from a Facebook group that my implant was falling out of my breast. And then I went in to see my surgeon. I called him on a Sunday and he's like, okay, come in first thing tomorrow morning. And he's like, that's a spitting suture and like it's totally normal and you're fine. And I was like, but on Facebook, they said it was like coming out and
right.
I'm kind of curious. I know you said like people are really awful online. Did you find that like sharing with such vulnerability made people kinder? Do I dare even ask? Or were people just trolls no matter what?
I think there's just trolls no matter what. And I think once like you get, I mean, that many followers, it's just going to come with it. In the beginning, no negative. I mean, nothing was really negative. But when you have these like videos go viral, they're reaching people that the content really wasn't intended to meet. And so they are just writing crazy things. And I've gotten to the point that I don't read comments. I read them. I'll stay and be present for like the first 15 minutes because those are the people that are like most engaged and like there for the right reasons. And after that, I don't look at them because they can be pretty nasty.
Really nasty.
So you just have to protect yourself. And I've just kind of learned that. So
yeah.
That's a great tip though. I never thought about that because that is like the audience that it was intended for is that first grab, right?
Yeah. I've only had one, I think, that clearly was going to the wrong audience on Instagram. And it was like, it was a really silly post about like bloating and like how bloating is normal. And I don't know why it went to the wrong audience, but I was like, I cannot deal with this. And I just shut the comments down because I couldn't it was like, these aren't my people.
It can be
please.
a lot. Yeah. And people are so hateful. I'm like, I can't imagine saying this to anyone, even a stranger on the internet.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
We're lucky that we don't think that way, probably, right?
Well, no, I would like, no, we've talked about this too. Like, we're all human. We all have opinions and we all make judgments, and we know when to keep them to ourselves.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't think things, but also, and sometimes people follow me. Actually, today I had a question box. What do you want to see more of? And one of them said less of you. And so
like
I
easy
clicked on it. Yeah. And
there's
it was
an unfollow
button.
Of course
and
it was.
And I clicked on it and went, and he had sent a message like a month ago saying that I'm annoying and my voice annoys him. And he got blocked immediately.
Good.
And I'm like,
bye.
Why do you follow me then?
Yeah.
You're better
Right.
than me, because I would have been like posting 5 things in a day just to get at him. Like, make
you
him
should've
unfollow me.
So
Bye.
just send him
DMing
personal
him.
videos of you in his DMs.
Right. Yeah.
Can I send a voice memo?
But it's just like, why follow me? Like, bye, you know?
Yeah. It's
Right.
So-
Like, this is literally an account about me and my life and my journey. If you want less of me, like, this is not the place for you.
Yeah.
Right. Go somewhere else.
And also,
for
please
sure.
continue driving up the engagement with this message.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, that is true. When you get like those posts, the more negative, like it gets people talking, and then that's what pushes it out more. So,
yeah, it's true.
How do you pivot from doing that and seeing stuff like that and then turning around and being a mother? Because your kids are fairly young, right?
yeah, my oldest is 10 and my youngest is 4, and we have 4. So they're pretty close together. You know, it honestly doesn't really bother me. Now, sometimes if somebody says something, messages bother me more than comments. Like if somebody says something negative in messages, that seems to get to me a little bit more. But I just remember that it doesn't mean anything and just switch over to mom mode. And because it is back and forth, I'm on my phone so much that it's constantly back and forth. Mom, phone. And it's not, I mean, most people are kind. Like 90% of the people are kind. And I mean, there's like that 10%, but I mean, that's how it is in the real world,
That's
right?
like-
I mean, outside, you know.
So what do your kids know about what you do on social media, and what do they know about you and your husband's now bariatric surgery? How has that been for them?
It's a good question. So people ask like what my kids have thought, and you have to remember like I had surgery and I was heavy, but like it was slow for them, right? Like when you see somebody every day, you don't really realize the changes as much. But when I do show them, or they see before and after pictures, they always are like, I like the new mommy better. And that, it's just like, you know, just gets to me. And now they're seeing my husband go through the same thing. They know that I share on Instagram. They know that I post. They're like, Mommy, are you going to post that? My boys don't like to be on camera as much as my daughter. Like, she's like an influencer in training, I feel
she is a ham. I love it so much.
So adorable.
She's hilarious. And it's just it truly has become a job. And if I'm doing something, like, Mommy has to finish doing this work, and it's my job now.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So I know this obviously has quite literally become a full-time job for you. How did you go about the process of figuring out like, hey, I can like make money from this and turn this into a job? And like, when did you kind of start thinking about that, and how did you approach that?
So it was probably about 6 months into my journey, I started eating Built bars, and like I fell in love with them. And then I realized that there was an affiliate program. So I started doing that, and it went over really well. And then as I grew, I would have brands reach out to me. I had no idea the amount of money that you really could make doing it. But brands came to me. That's kind of how it like all started, is they would come to me and I started doing small things, and it just kind of evolved the bigger I got.
Yeah. And I know you and I work with the same management team now. And I think I can say for me, that's been completely like life-changing and game-changing in terms of like turning this into a job. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, life-changing. And
Yeah.
I say that like my bariatric, this whole journey has just completely changed our life. I'm so thankful for it. And like, Casey, it's just crazy.
Yeah. It's such a cool opportunity, and like
It
we're
is.
grateful for it every single day. I'm curious, do you have a favorite brand that you've worked with?
I don't know. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, of course, is Built Bar, because I have been so passionate about, I love, love, love Built Bars.
What kind of pull do you have there, Laura? Like, do you have any sway in bringing back like if we could get more molten lava cake to come back, or like the red velvet puff? I really miss.
She didn't know what she was getting herself into.
I did. They've kind of changed their like how they're doing things, and so it's been harder. Like they don't have a lot of new releases, and I miss that because I think that's why I loved it so much, is because you keep it new, like, and fresh, like trying new things. So yeah,
my niece she loves the brownie batter puff. She's 10, and she eats them, and she's like, "Are these healthy for me?" And I'm like, "They're pretty good for you. I mean, it's a lot of protein. Like it'll help keep you full." And she tried the molten. I bought like 6 boxes of molten lava cake when it came out because I thought it was amazing. And she tried it for the day, and she was like, "I got to get my mom to buy me these." And I was like, "Well, they don't make it anymore." And she was like, "What?" She was
right. You're like, "But I have a stash, but
yeah,
share with you."
Obviously, in terms of like, the work side of this, there's affiliate codes, there's brand deals, but you have a pretty exciting collaboration coming up with Flav City. I personally so excited about it. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on with that and how that came about?
They just kind of came to me, Bobby, and he's like, "We want to do a collaboration with you, come out with like a flavor for your community." And he's like, what would you like that to be? And like a no-brainer was a coffee protein. I love the butter coffee, but I'm like, we can do this better. And the macros on the butter coffee, for someone like losing, they're not probably really great,
Mm-hmm.
So they started sending samples. So they sent some, I would try them, and he's like, "What do you think?" And then they'd send another sample. "What do you think?" And then we got it down. It is absolutely delicious. I'm not just saying that. It is so good. And the macros are really, really good on it. And I'm so excited about it.
I think that's so cool. And I think this is one thing that I love about Instagram and like the brand partnerships, is that it's not just like representing brands and products, but you're actually getting to work with them to create something that benefits our community. And you said like, hey, and you're right, like the macros on the Flav City stuff is fantastic for someone in maintenance because it's a little bit more balanced than just a strict protein powder. But if you're losing, those carbs are a little bit high. And I think it's really cool that you got to find this brand, work with this brand, and then say, hey, like, let's create something for my people and the people who like I speak to. And I'm a huge protein coffee, butter coffee fan. So like personally just so pumped about it. Cannot wait.
Yes, I can't wait for you to try it.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah. And to bring things that fit the community more I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah.
So.
I just think it's really cool. And it's like the power of what social media can do and
the opportunities that can arise from it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is. And it really always blows my mind, like that you can connect with so many different people that you guys, that you would never have known just from like a little app on your phone.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It is really cool. And I think it's that shared experience because Laura, you and I first connected, I think probably like I don't even remember now at this point, like a year ago. But it was like, hey, like we're going through this same thing. And so we would like talk back and forth about like, oh, like how are you finding plastic surgeons? And like, what did you learn on your consults? And I would share what I had learned on mine. And, it's this person who's essentially a stranger, but you have this connection of like having gone through the same thing and going through the same process. And it was just so beneficial for me to have you to talk about these things with. And I think that's my favorite part about this whole Instagram community is just that connection and shared experience.
I totally agree. I remember texting you about, I think, post-op swelling. And, like I have friends in real life, but they haven't been through it. So they don't know. So the connection is just the best.
Yeah. So we've talked about how you've shared a lot on social media and you've shared some really vulnerable things. Is there anything you'll never share on social media?
Probably my sex life. To just put it out there.
So we won't be expecting any videos anytime soon. That's what you're telling us.
Do you get a lot of requests for that?
Not a lot. Occasionally, like last week, somebody said, you never talk about how your sex life or something. And I know that's probably a topic that people want to know, like if it changed or whatever. But that's just one of those things that is intimate to me. And like I said, my kids' teachers and who knows who follows me. And it's just one of those things like, I'm just going to keep to myself, you know?
I can't imagine. Like, what about mother-in-law or something? Like, I actually am amazed that that's a thing people are asking you for. Like, I was joking. I didn't think that was real.
It's real. And like, I think just last week or something, somebody asked me a question. I'm like, I didn't know that I needed to share that with you, but okay.
It's pretty fascinating what people feel entitled to know about a person's life when they share pieces of their life on the internet. It's like all of a sudden, you have to tell me everything.
I also
they want to know everything. Like the other day, some person messaged me and she's like, okay, I know this has nothing to do with what you're talking about, but what kind of fan do you have? It was my ceiling fan. Like people want to know everything. Like, where'd you get that thing on the wall way over there? It's just crazy.
It always cracks me up how if I fail to link something, I'll get 17 DMs being like, link please, where's the link? Where can I find that? Can I have that link? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
And then also a text from me and Lisa, like, where's that link? Laura, we recently did an episode on Casey and I said this about her, so I'm going to ask you the same thing. I feel like people think they know you so well, probably us included from having followed you. But is there anything that you think people would be like really surprised to know, or something that like you feel like is sort of not a secret, maybe? I don't want you to give us an expose
funny
here.
You're asking this because I was just going to do a reel soon about things that people didn't know about me, like random things.
Oh, I love that.
So one thing, it's not like, I don't know. I have a black belt in karate.
Oh.
Yeah. My parents got I have a younger brother and sister. And when we were like in elementary school, they got us into karate because it can like just be really good with skills, like personal skills. And they made us, we started and they wouldn't let us quit until they were like really big and you finished what you start.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a black belt.
That's super
I broke boards.
Wow. Do you think you'd ever get back into it?
Oh my gosh, no. Do I seem like a karate person?
No, not really, but
check it off the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, that check done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's super cool.
It is. Do your kids do karate?
No.
You're a big baseball family, right?
Baseball, my kids love all sports. Baseball, football, those are probably the basketball. We have one that plays soccer. It's just always busy.
Always something.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Laura, how do you manage messaging around food and eating and nutrition with your kids, knowing everything you know and going through everything you've gone through on this journey?
That's a really good question. And it's a hard question. I get that a lot. Like how are you going to change the script for your kids? Both of their parents have had bariatric surgery. And it's hard. And I don't know that I know the right answer to that. I'm learning as I go. I want kids to be kids. Like they can have candy and they can eat the donuts. And it's about balance though, right? And it's hard. Like it is truly so hard. One thing like we've changed, we were having like sweet treats every night. I'm a really big dessert sweets person. And so we would get like ice cream every night or cookies. And so now it's like once a week, you can choose something that you want. If it's ice cream or cookies, But it's just hard to know. You don't want them to have like be overly like thinking about it, but then you still want them to be aware because I think it's really important.
Yeah, I agree. No, I am not a mom myself. I have 3 nieces and I find myself hyper like focused all the time on like, am I saying the right thing? My 10-year-old niece just asked me, Aunt Lisa, why did you have surgery on your tummy? And I'm like, how do I answer this without giving you some complex about your body and your, you know what I mean? Like,
welcome to motherhood.
What is the right thing to say? And like, how do I, she called herself fat recently. And I'm like,
Oh.
you're 10 and you're so athletic and you're healthy. Or she just thinks growing is getting fat. And I'm like, no, babe, you're supposed to grow. Like, that's normal. And like, how do I, you know what I mean? It feels like impossible. Like, what do you?
That's so hard.
I know. It's really, really hard. And I think the biggest thing is like not focusing on like the way I look, more as like the way I feel. The foods we put in our body, they make us feel good. And that's kind of how we do it with the kids. It's not about looks. I mean, yes, I love looking better, but at the end of the day, it's my health that is the most important and why we really did it. So,
yeah, it's so tough.
like, I don't know the answers to it because I do get people ask all the time about it. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just learning. So,
yeah, we're just doing the best we can.
And hoping like that my kids don't have the struggles that I had because it is so hard growing up overweight. It's just so tough.
Yeah. I think we all can relate to that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I ask, your husband has shared some and you've shared some about like getting to that place where he was ready. How did you manage being supportive of him going through the process and not kind of like pushing or suggesting too much? Because it's such a personal decision to be able to move forward with bariatric surgery.
Yeah. So, I was like almost 2 years post-op when he had surgery. So my husband was type 2 diabetic. He had fatty liver. He carried his weight in his stomach, which is the most dangerous place, to carry your weight. And so I would talk to him about like, you could do this. And he's like, nope, I don't want anything to do with that. And I never pushed it. I mean, you have to want to make the change. And he tried some injectable medications and had some pretty bad side effects from them and was told he can no longer take them for life.
Oh, wow.
And after that, I think it was like, well, then what do I do? And so I'll never forget. He came to me and he's like, "Did you see that picture Dr. Roller posted? It was a before and after a male." Because, there's not a ton of guys in the bariatric community. And he's like, "Do you think that I could lose weight like that?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And so it got the wheels turning and he did it. And he's like, "I wish I would have done it sooner." So just, you can't push. You can suggest and, talk about it. But I really feel like you have to be 100% ready to make the change to be successful.
Yeah. And I think that really speaks to the power of sharing your story that, Luke saw someone that he identified with and that got the wheels turning. That was same for me. I saw someone on TikTok that I identified with and that was sort of the catalyst for me. And I think I always remind myself of that when I'm sharing on social media and dealing with, nasty comments or, whatever the bad stuff that comes with social media. I just have to remind myself like, this is the true power of it, is like you can change somebody's life just by sharing your story. And I think that's what you're doing, Laura, which is amazing.
And same to you. It truly is. And people message me like, "I had my surgery because of you." And it's just so life changing. And I wish everyone could could do it and was able to do it because there's just no words. It's changed my life forever.
I'm curious, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start sharing their journey on social media?
Just start. I mean, as simple as that sounds, just start sharing, be consistent, be authentic, engage with your community and the people. The more I grow, the harder that is. And that truly is like one of my favorite things is to connect with people like in messages. But at some point, like you can only do so much. But just share. I mean, be consistent, share, authentic. That is my best tip. I mean, people are like, can you teach a class or can you teach us how to do it? And I'm like, I have no secrets. Like, I just share.
Yeah.
So.
How do you manage staying connected and engaged with such a large following?
So anytime I do posts, like for the first 15 minutes, I respond to messages, like comments. And then in my messages, I by no means answer all of my messages, but I try to go through them and answer a few every so often throughout the day. And I have started where I take Sundays off. So Sundays, I don't post on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram really. And that has really helped because it's like you're constantly working. So it's just like finding the balance. And that has really helped because you kind of almost feel like burnout. Like, oh my gosh, I can't take this anymore. I got to put my phone down. So,
yeah.
Well, and as if that wasn't enough, you also started a podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. With my bariatric surgeon, we started a podcast. It's called The Skinny Truth, and talking all things bariatric surgery. I mean, it'll just evolve, weight loss, but it's been fun.
Yeah, I've been enjoying listening to it. And I think it's a cool dynamic to have a patient and a surgeon together. I don't think that's something that we've seen before in a podcast in the bariatric community. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I feel like I would have loved to have something like that, like a perspective from the surgeon and then a patient for sure.
Yeah, I can remember before surgery, I could not find enough podcasts to listen to about bariatric surgery. I just wanted all of the information. So I can only imagine how helpful that is to people who are pre-op or post-op. And, it's, I'm sure, an incredibly valuable resource.
I also think, the three of us, Casey, Allie, and myself, have all had varied experiences with our surgeons in terms of, like, Casey went to Mexico, so there was really no follow-up care in that regard. And I think, Allie, yours was kind of, we did your surgery and goodbye, see you later.
Yeah. Can't find us again.
And my surgeon was very, very involved. And I was curious your kind of maybe what impact that had on you, or just having a surgeon that was communicative and that you felt like, was in your corner and was there to support you post-op.
I think it's just amazing. I mean, Dr. Roller, I can't say enough great things about him. Like, their program just sets you up for success. I mean, they're there with you. But the bigger thing that I think what he did is he is commenting on his patient's social media. He's like encouraging them. He's liking their posts. He's sharing their posts. Nothing makes you feel better than when people recognize your hard work.
Yeah.
And I really value that about him. And because there's a lot of surgeons and doctors out there that could care less. They do your surgery and bye.
Yeah.
So I really think that is something that I really respect that about him.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you would say to maybe someone who's listening that is considering or newly post-op and is scared and overwhelmed and hasn't made it to the other side yet?
My best advice is take it day by day. Small steps, baby steps. Don't look at the big picture because it's daunting. But consistency will get you there. And it's the same quote like with kids, the days are long, but the years are short. And I'm telling you, you will look back and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm 2.5 years post-op. And it goes so fast. So stick to it, be consistent, and the results will follow.
Laura, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a great conversation. I've learned so much. I hope our listeners have learned so much. I really can't thank you enough for being here and sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun to talk with you guys.
It has been such a pleasure. We will be back next week with another episode. Follow us on social media at Former Fat Friend Pod. I am at Leaning Into Lisa.
I'm at Allie's Losing It _RNY.
I'm at Maintaining Casey.
And Laura, tell our listeners where they can follow you.
At Flusche away. Try to spell that.
All right. We will talk to you guys next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.